Hi guys, I'm going to try to make this one a little shorter than the last time. Long story short, it's the second time I've had to film, and it's nice outside, so the neighbor was mowing his lawn until about 5 seconds ago, and the cat is playing games, pawing at the door, getting in and out and in and out. So this video is going to be about Diagnosis Week. It's been a little over a month and a half since we got ours, so it's just going to be kind of the process that we went through and that sort of thing. So if it's something you're interested in, then keep watching. So basically, I went in for my 22-week ultrasound back in March, and I was super excited. I already had a boy name and a girl name all picked out, so it really didn't matter, what gender we got. I do already have 2 boys and 1 girl, so I was kind of hoping for a girl to even it out, but didn't really make that big of a difference. So the first thing is I went in, and the ultrasound tech, she was like poking around and everything, looking at him and stuff like that, and I didn't really, I guess it might have taken a little bit longer, but I didn't really like pay that much attention to it because they had 3D ultrasound there, and I'd never had one, and I had no idea that they were gonna have one, so I was just like amazed by that and all of that. But so when she told me that he was a boy, I immediately knew that his name would be Beckett. So that was something that was, kind of exciting. But when she got done with the ultrasound, she told me she wanted to go and talk to the doctor and maybe send me for a follow-up at the hospital. I thought that was weird, so I was kind of confused, and I know that she could probably tell that. Cat. So she stopped, and she kind of told me, hey, listen, there's just some things that I'm kind of noticing that I don't think are quite right with your little guy, so I just want to get a second opinion, but let me go ahead and show you some of them so that you're not completely blindsided when the doctor comes in. So she pulled out the probe again, and she started showing me like his stomach, and said he had what they called a double bubble, which is like a blockage in his stomach or his intestines, that sort of thing. So that was, obviously concerning, but then she moved on and told me that the chambers of his heart they weren't formed properly. So of course then, I'm in full panic mode because you're telling me that he has a heart problem. So she almost, at that point I was like a wreck, and she almost looked guilty at that point, because I'm guessing because she knew she had more things to tell me, and I was already, upset and worked up. So then she started showing me like his fingers and his toes, and I was really confused, and she explained that the problem with his stomach and the issue he was having with his heart in combination with this extra gap between his toes, could be an indication of Down syndrome. And I was obviously just caught off guard, completely caught off guard. So she left to go talk to the doctor, and I remember looking over and seeing this quote on the wall. It's actually in my intro. Something to the effect of, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I set you apart. Something like that. I'll fix it if it's wrong. So, I remember seeing that and thinking, if she's right, then how much does this fit right now? So I had to take a picture of it, and that's why it's there. So the doctor came back a little bit later, and she said that basically she agreed with what the ultrasound tech had said, and she was going to try to get me set up for a follow-up at the hospital, for a level 2 ultrasound and a meeting with a geneticist. But she said they'd called and they were kind of playing phone tag between 2 different hospitals to figure out which one could get me in fastest, whether it would be that afternoon or the next day or when it would be, but they wanted to get me in as soon as they could, which was good because I was like, if there's something going on, I want to know as soon as possible. So she told me she was going to let me have some time to like call someone to see if I could get someone to go with me this time. So she left, and I called my mom, and she was really, really supportive of everything. But the first thing I told her, I asked her if we had a follow-up, could she go with me for it, and or could she get off work to go with me. And she said yes, but I'm guessing she could probably, she knew it wasn't normal because, she's got her own kids, and, this isn't my first either. So she almost immediately asked, what's wrong? So I explained to her, and I tried to keep as calm as I could. I explained to her about his stomach and his heart. And then by the time I got to the point that I had to repeat that they thought he might have Down syndrome, I lost it all over again. And of course, she just was amazing. Said, it's okay, it's all right, it's gonna be okay. So I got off the phone with her, and eventually the doctor and the ultrasound tech came in, and they said that they were setting everything up for the following morning. So that was nice. It gave me a little bit of, time to process. I did leave that appointment and go home and tell myself that I wasn't going to do any research. I didn't want to get myself too worked up before I knew anything, before, I had this second ultrasound, before any of it. So I just spent time with my family that night, and the next morning, me and my mom both went to the hospital, and they did the level 2 ultrasound, and that ultrasound tech basically told me she agreed with their reasonings for sending me for the follow-up. So she went and got the other doctor, and she came in and kind of did some scans of her own, and she told me she definitely agreed. She thought it was probably about 90% sure. So she recommended that I have an amniocentesis done, which baby number 4, I was still terrified, the idea of that. So, I didn't know a whole lot about what it was, but I remember reading about it when I was pregnant with my oldest, and I remember being afraid of it then. So it was one of those things. She told me that it could give me a more definitive answer. And so I kind of wanted to have it done, but I was on the edge-ish. I was pretty sure though. So then she sent us across the hall to the geneticist. And I remember sitting there thinking like, man, this is right across the hall. Like, she must like deal with this kind of stuff all the time. So hopefully that means she's got like experience with it or whatever. But we sat at a small table. In there, it was me, my mom, the geneticist, and I guess like a student that she had with her. And they kind of talked to us about like the basics of genetics that you would like need to know to understand how Down syndrome happens or what exactly genetically it is. And she explained those things to us. It was probably one of the most informative meetings that I've had in this whole process. She explained those things to us. She kind of talked to us about, you know, things to expect if that is what the results come back for. She also talked to us about an amniocentesis and kind of explained to us more detailed as to what that was and how they do it and all that sort of thing. She also explained some of the risks that came with it, and she told me that it would test for, or it would, the first results that would come back would check for abnormalities in the 13th, 18th, and 21st chromosome, and that the 13th and 18th chromosomes, if they have genetic abnormalities, often don't have high survival rates. So I remember as she was telling me all of this and explaining the amnio and all that, I remember thinking about my family, thinking about my other kids, thinking about what she had said about survival rates there. And by the end of that, I was 100% sure, like, this is going to happen, that I want to have this done, because for me, while some people choose that it's not worth the risk or they want to wait a little longer, because one of the risks is a possible preterm labor. It's really rare, but you know, so some people decide they want to wait a little longer before they have it done, so the survival rates are higher if they do go into preterm labor, things like that. I decided I wanted to have it done. I was ready because my kids, I wanted to be able to prepare them, and I wanted to be able to be prepared. I wanted to know, like, if this is what it is, then I need to know. Just in general, to be prepared, to provide for him better, to everything. So we went ahead and we went back in the waiting room for what was probably like an hour, maybe 2 hours. It was a long time because I wasn't scheduled for it. So they're like, we'll get you in, we'll do it today for you, but you might have to wait a minute. So that was okay. We waited. She went in. The whole process took 5, maybe 10 minutes from the minute that like the ultrasound tech like put the probe on, and then the doctor like got everything cleaned and sterilized and like stuck the needle in, out, done, and I walked away with a Band-Aid. So, I mean, it was quick and easy. I mean, it was kind of painful. It felt to me more like I don't know, almost like a contraction. It was painful. But I mean, it didn't last that long, so it's not a big deal. So I went home that evening, and at that point, they told me like by the end of the week I would have results for the early results, the fish results. So at that point I was kind of hoping that they would call me back with those results and say, you know, they're in and it's Down syndrome. Because, and I know that sounds totally crazy, but given what she said about survival rates for the 13th and 18th, I was just basically hoping, because that would give him, you know, a better chance for life and everything else. So at that point, I was just hoping that's what they'd come back and say. So that night, the geneticist had actually, she sent me home with like 2 books and some other reading material and stuff, just in case I decided before my next appointment, whenever that ended up being, in case I decided I wanted to look over stuff. So that night I actually went home and I ended up reading, looking over some stuff, and the next day I got out like a highlighter and like tabs and a notebook, and I just started writing stuff down. I have this beautiful everything. I literally went through and I just started writing and putting tabs in and keeping track of everything. I wanted to know everything, because if that's what they came back and told me, I wanted to know everything I could. So my ultrasound was on Monday. The follow-up and the amnio were on Tuesday, and I think I got the call back on Thursday, maybe Friday. I'm pretty sure it was Thursday though. Saying, hey, the results are in, you know, they confirm it is, you know, it is Down syndrome, just like we thought. 90%, 90% was a big percentage for them to say they were that sure. So, I mean, I pretty much figured that when they called back, that's what they say. So when she said that, it was almost like a wave of relief, just like washed over me. Because, I mean, it was one of those things, if his heart condition or his stomach condition are common with Down syndrome, then that means that the knowledge should be there. There's like 500 babies every month in the US that are born with Down syndrome. So the knowledge should be there to correct these issues and, you know, for him to be all right. So it was kind of relieving for me. It was something that I remember on the phone, she kept asking me, are you okay? Do you have any questions? And at that point, I'd done research since Tuesday night. So I was like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, I'm okay. You know, I'd pretty much figured that's what, you know, you were going to come back and say. So I've been doing research and I'm good. I did have a little bit of like sadness, because anytime somebody tells you that something is abnormal or whatever with your child, then, you know, you have worry, you have sadness, you know. But, and I still get it sometimes. Every now and then, it'll just hit me out of nowhere. I'll just be like, whoa, this is where we're at. But it's usually really short, like, okay, we know this, we got this, it's gonna be okay. So we got those early results, and then about a week later, no, less than a week later, so that was Thursday, and by like Tuesday, the geneticist called me one last time and let me know, like, hey, the final results are in. Of course, you know, they basically told us all the same things as before, but they also told us that it is trisomy 21, which was also a relief for me, because I know that trisomy 21 just happens. So I knew that the only form of Down syndrome that could be hereditary was translocation. And even then, it's only about a third of translocation, which makes like it 1% of all Down syndrome. So I knew that when she said it was trisomy 21, that it wasn't genetic. It was nothing that I did. It was nothing that I could have done, nothing. It just happened. That was a little relieving for me. I still searched a little bit for answers and, you know, somewhere to place blame for a little bit, but I mean, eventually it was one of those things. I was like, you know, I know these facts, so I need to just accept them and just do what I can to make things better or easier for him, basically. So, I mean, for me, everyone has their different ways of coping, dealing with things like that. For me, it was just research. I have done so much research because I figured that even like with his heart, if I knew that there are two main heart issues that, you know, are common with Down syndrome, and I know a whole lot about, you know, this one over here and like the recovery time and the procedure and how they, you know, how they fix it and, you know, what exactly it is and things like that. And then I knew some information about this one over here of the same things, you know, recovery, how they fix it, procedure, all of that. If I knew a little bit about both, then maybe I wouldn't be so blindsided if the doctors came and said, okay, well, we're dealing with this, so this is what you're going to expect, this is what's going to happen. Well, I kind of would be prepared. The geneticist did tell me that they would be probably calling me from the hospital to set up some follow-up appointments, to set up an MRI, basically to get better imaging and things like that of his stomach. Also to set up a fetal echocardiogram, basically an ultrasound of his heart to kind of get a better image of that. Then I would be having another ultrasound and then like a team meeting with like some surgeons and doctors and things like that to kind of, you know, discuss what surgeries would look like and recoveries and, you know, different things like that, what we could expect. So knowing that, I mean, that made like the research a lot easier because I knew that this meeting was coming, so I was kind of preparing myself for it. The doctor that I was seeing for my regular appointments at that point, they didn't deal with things like this. So they had me transfer to a high-risk clinic in the hospital that I would be delivering at. So, I mean, that's kind of nice because now I know exactly like where I'm gonna go and all of that in that hospital. The clinic is like on a lower level, and then you go up higher to the actual like labor and delivery, and that's where they also do like the ultrasounds and things like that. So it's kind of nice to know like exactly what I'm gonna be expecting and stuff like that for those things. And also they told me after he was born he would be transferred to a children's hospital, which is like 5-10 minutes down the road from the hospital I'll be delivering at. So it was good to, you know, also know that where I'm going, it's going to be closer to that hospital for him. And another reason that they were having me transfer there is because they have a level 3 NICU. So between the time that he gets transferred and, you know, delivery and things like that, he'll, you know, be in a level 3 NICU. So that's basically what my week-ish entailed. The ultrasound on Monday and then the final results the following Tuesday. So roughly a week. It was a lot of ups and downs, but I know for me, I just had that urge to research, and that was, you know, that helped me for coping. I know some people have to you know, lean on family members, or they have to find other ways of coping. Some people just have to cry it out, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. But for me, it was research. I just wanted to know as much as I could. I just wanted to be prepared. And I mean, that's where I'm at now. I still research. I still, you know, try to prepare. It's one of the reasons making all these videos, to kind of hopefully help others, you know, on that same journey, or, you know, let you know that it's all right to find your own ways of coping, or, you know, you're not alone. So, I guess that's it for this one. I feel like trying not to make this one go quite as long. So hopefully this was informative. If you have any questions or anything like that, leave comments below, of course, and I'll see you next time. Bye.